Hi, and welcome back to Daniel's Security Academy. Today, we are going to talk about social engineering, the concept behind it, the definition, the basics, what is the patterns they used, and some example attacks. So let's kick it off with the definition of what social engineering is. And social engineering is a method of obtaining security related data by exploiting human components. And depending on the authority level of the person being exploited or deceived, social engineering can cause considerable damage. So this is a definition I got from Security Insider, and it shows you like the main components of social engineering. So you want to have security related data or confidential data, in other words, and you do exploit human components. So you do not use any viruses, you don't need any Trojan horse. You exploit the human being, and depending on what you're trying to achieve, you can do considerable damage to the victim. And let's get into the basics first. So the exploitation of human characteristics is pretty much around helpfulness, fear, greed, and curiosity. And for all four of those, we will have examples in the next slides. And the attacker pretty much tries to convince the victim to do something for him. For example, hand out like confidential information which are sensitive to the company. Turn off security functions. I'm missing a second F here, I think. Execute wire transfers, for example, to get money. Or simply install malware on a computer to laterally move inside the company network to other computers to do like ransomware attack, for example. And social engineering is nothing new. Since the beginning of humankind, it is being used. So many thousand years ago, there was social engineering and social engineering attacks. But back then they just didn't call it that way. And within the digital communication age, it just became especially effective because it didn't or doesn't cost you anything to send a phishing email. And you have all the time you need to make those phishing emails, for example, look very realistic and trick people which are not trained or don't have too much IT background to do something. So the age of digital communication definitely gave social engineering a new level of effectiveness. And let's start to go into the characteristics one by one. It's 5 totally. And we'll start off with the helpfulness. And I will read out the example and little information before the example to demonstrate what helpfulness means in terms of social engineering characteristics. So humans want to trust and help one another. So after doing research into a company, cybercriminals target 2 or 3 employees in a company with an email that looks like it comes from the target's individual's manager. The email asks them to send the manager the password for the accounting database, stressing that the manager needs it to make sure everyone gets paid on time. The email tone is urgent, tricking the victims into believing that they are helping out their manager by acting quickly. So the victim is tricked in a sense that they first believe to know the other person. They believe it's their manager. Secondly, they believe they actually not only help the manager, but also help the colleagues to get paid on time. So this is one phishing attack, or what kind of social engineering attack you want to use. to tackle the helpfulness characteristic. And let me explain you one thing. Not every person reacts to the same human characteristics the same way. So some people will be very vulnerable to the helpfulness characteristic, and some might be not at all because they don't have this tendency to be helpful, which sounds a bit weird or harsh, but yeah, it's just how humans are different in their characteristics. Second example, the characteristic about fear. And for fear, you receive a voicemail, for example, that says you are under investigation for tax fraud and that you must call immediately to prevent arrest and criminal investigation. And this social engineering attack happens during tax season, which is something specific to the US. So for everyone listening to this one, not from the US, this is something US specific. During tax season, when people are already stressed out about their taxes. Cybercriminals prey on the stress and anxiety that comes with filing taxes and use these fear emotions to trick people into complying with the voicemail. So the attacker tries to fear the victim to do something. And for this, they use a scenario which is very applicable to the victim. And this will only work if it is applicable to the victim. Because if you live in Germany, for example, and you receive such a voicemail or email for someone who's just targeted for the US market, talking about the tax season and the deadlines, you will ask yourself, like, what are they talking about? I don't have any deadlines to meet here. So it needs to be well researched for the victim you're focusing on, if the situation you are trying to put him in or them in is applicable to them. Next up, we have greed. And imagine if you could simply transfer $10 to an investor and see this grow into $10,000 without any effort on your behalf. Cybercriminals use the basic human emotions of trust and greed to convince victims that they really can get something for nothing. A carefully worded baiting email tells victims to provide their bank account information and the funds will be transferred the same day. So a classical example for the greed is a phishing email, which has been pretty much around the internet for more than 10 years, I guess, which is the Nigerian prince who needs to get rid of $1 million, $100,000, $10,000, whatever number the attacker is putting in a phishing email, and asking pretty much someone, oh, please help me, I'm the prince of Nigeria, I need to get rid of my money because of tax reasons. I don't know what actual reasons they put in there. And people are like, oh, I really could use the money now. So out of trust and greed for the money, they think like, okay, this seems like a legit thing. Let's put in there my bank account details. And a few days later, a few hours later, maybe already, money will be gone. And the people will see there's nothing coming for free in this world. The fourth characteristic is curiosity. And cybercriminals pay attention to events, capturing a lot of news coverage, and then take advantage of human curiosity to trick social engineering victims into acting. For example, after the second Boeing MAX 8 plane crash, cybercriminals sent emails with attachments that claimed to include leaked data about the crash. In reality, the attachment installed a version of the H-worm rat on the victim's computer. So here, what's happening here? Many people are very curious. They like to hear news. They want to hear like secret data. And in this case, this event is such a publicly widespread event it can fish people to like, oh, I really want to have additional information about the others. And out of their curiosity, they just click on something, they pay something, they whatever you do. In this case, they did the malware. You could also ask for like, okay, for just $10, $100, you will get the absolute hot news about the second plane crash, which is not yet publicly known. I'm pretty much tackling the curiosity of people. Lastly, I have another characteristic, which is not a human characteristic in itself, but a characteristic of social engineering, which is urgency. And you receive an email from customer support at an online shopping website that you frequently buy from, telling you that they need to confirm your credit card information to protect your account. The email language urges you to respond quickly to ensure that your credit card information isn't stolen by criminals. Without thinking twice, and because you trust the online store, you send not only your credit card information, but also your mailing address and phone number. A few days later, you receive a call from a credit card company telling you that your credit card has been stolen and used for thousands of dollars of fraudulent purchases. Here, it is something which you could also put under the sphere of trust. So which applies to all 5 characteristics pretty much. Trust is one key component of all 5. So the victim trusts the other side and gets pushed to do something because of urgency. You need to act now, really quick. Now, you pretty much on the phone, you should tell me your bank account details because I need to verify it and stop the transaction, which is just on the flight right now for like, I don't know, thousands of dollars being held right now. So they push the victim by saying something super, super urgent. And now let's check on the 9 most popular social engineering attacks. The first one you will know for sure, which is phishing. And it is most often used via email, which looks very real. For example, Amazon claiming that your online account is being locked. You need to action right now. Please log in. Click on the following link and log in to your account. And pretty much they use an email as the entry door, a website which is not Amazon, but will save your login data and sniff it away. But it could also be done via text messages for sure. And a more specific phishing attack is a spear phishing attack, which is pretty much a phishing attack, but very specific to one person or to one small group. For example, if you want to catch a CEO or you want to catch someone with public relations inside a company, you want to catch an accountant. So you want to get to a specific, very specific person or department. You do even more work into your phishing because it has to look way, way more realistic to trick the people. And the third one is also around phishing, which is baiting. So no, it's necessarily about phishing. I need to correct myself here. So baiting is that you, as an attacker, promise a reward to the victim if they follow your instructions or do something. So for example, if you open the gate at the company's door, for example, and you let me in, I will give you $100. Or if you turn off some security features, maybe on the network, which will then enable me to get into the network, I will grant you $1,000. This is pretty much baiting. Fourth, we have malware. And it doesn't mean malware in the sense of like a Trojan horse or a virus. No, it means that the victim is getting told that he has malware installed on the computer, and he either needs to pay a fee to get it deleted, or maybe put in some credentials, or give someone on the hotline credentials so they could log in to your computer and delete the malware for you. In both ways, either you get money stolen, on the other way you get your credentials stolen. Fifth, pretexting. It is most often included in all of those attacks, because it's one key principle, because you use a fake ID or a fake personality to reserve certain services or goods. For sure, phishing does not necessarily use a fake ID, but you still fake your identity in some way. So I do see pretexting as a base for multiple social engineering attacks. But if you take it strictly, it's about, I pretend to be, I pretend to be David Guetta, and tell people at the stadium, okay, I'm David Guetta, I need to get in here because I'm the special guest tonight at this concert, and just like, looking like him or showing a fake ID and just faking the personality. So that is pretexting. Sixth, we have the concept of quid pro quo, which is essentially, I do you a favor, but now I expect a favor from you. Pretty much, I send you a gift, and now I expect you send me a gift. And this gift is supposed to be bigger than my gift, because this is like psychology behind the quid pro quo. And it is a very common technique also outside of social engineering. For example, for salespersons, they pretty much tell you, okay, I will give you another 5% discount if you go ahead and also sign out or buy this one or get this service done. So someone giving you something and then expecting a bigger gift or a return back from you. This is quid pro quo. 7, tailgating is just as it is in the wording. It's a physical attack following an authorized person through security doors by just simply following the person's steps. So if you want to get into a building which is secured by key cards, you would just wait until someone who has a key card shows up, and you just follow them through the doors and say for sure, thank you, and don't act suspicious at all. 8, vishing. It is a phishing technique specific to voicemails. So an urgent voicemail requires an immediate action of the victim. We had this example with the text fraud, for example, or the urgency characteristic, where I brought up an example for this. And lastly, it is another a little bit more technical attack as well, but also falls under the social engineering, which is called waterholing. And what has been done is a website getting infected with a malware, so that every visitor of the website will then be affected and spread the malware again. However, you can also do some filtering, so you only want to infect, for example, users who are visiting the website with the web browser agent of iOS Safari, or you only want to focus on Google Chrome, or you only want to use on Windows users. You could definitely use different filters to do so, but pretty much the website you're infecting is your waterhole where everyone is coming to. And the bottom graphic demonstrates the 4 steps, the 4 parts of it. So identification and compromising of the legitimate website, for example, Google. So if Google would have a water-holding malware, a lot of users would run into the danger of getting infected for sure, because they have a lot of visitors. So the user browses the website. Then the filter, which I just mentioned, is checking, okay, is this a user I want to target? If yes, I will compromise the host by sending the malware payload together with the website payload. Okay, and that's it already for today, for the introduction to social engineering, the different characteristics, typical attacks. And I'm still thinking of maybe doing one another video, giving you some advices on, just on a theoretical level, how social engineering attacks are prepared, how do you set up avatars, forums, websites. And yeah, maybe just let me know if you would be interested in this a little bit more practical session about social engineering. And yeah, I would be very happy to get some feedback from you guys, and stay safe. Bye bye.